Good afternoon or good night to everyone, depending from where you're watching us. On behalf of the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE, I give you a warm welcome to our last session of our exciting first edition of Entrepreneur Week. As an announcement, I would like to encourage you to leave us your questions so we can answer them at the end of our session tonight. So stay tuned for that. We hope that tonight you'll get inspired by the stories of these two highly motivated entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs who have joined us and are right here. In about 5 minutes, we'll talk to them. Without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Magatte Wade. She is a passionate Senegalese entrepreneur who owns 3 successful businesses, including Skin is Skin. Magatte Wade, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi, Javier. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everybody had a. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying I hope everybody had a great time so far, and that it's been a really good and fruitful 4 days. I would love to hear what all of you have to say, but yeah, so I guess I'm just gonna start with this simple statement on my part that entrepreneurship is hard. It is so hard that I don't think you should do it just because you want to make money. I just don't think that in the long run, if your only motivation to get involved and engage onto such a hard, long, strenuous path is going to be just going to make money. It's not going to hold you up for what's ahead. So I think it's very important because of that. It's very important to have a sense of purpose and a sense of passion that really makes you want to embark on. In my case, and I'll talk to you only about my third company, which is my last company, the one I'm doing last so far. The last company is the last one I've been building. In this part, for this one, all my companies, I start them because there's really a sense of purpose behind. For this last one, which is called Skinny Skin, the little lip balm on a mission to fight discrimination, I did it, yeah, you heard that word, discrimination. I'm sure most of you have heard of George Floyd and what happened a few months ago to that African American man, to that black man. And then the whole world, thankfully, finally woke up to the fact that, maybe there's an issue. For me, my George Floyd moment happened 4 years ago. And so one of the reasons why I started my company has to do with a moment like that. And we can talk about it more in details later. So my purpose is to fight discrimination and the type of bias that might have taken us to where we are, to where we have to an event like that. And the other one has to do with my long held commitment to to African prosperity, to contributing to African prosperity. So basically, because of that, I decided to move my the manufacturing of our products to Africa so that we can provide good jobs, to people back home, and there happen to be mostly women. So I'm one of those people who believes that entrepreneurs can solve all the world problems. We know, I mean, most global peace and prosperity has been created by entrepreneurs. Conversely, government causes oftentimes problems. So I am all for entrepreneurship. Now, I told you guys about the reason why I started my, the company that I have now, Skin is Skin. On one end, it is to fight discrimination in this country, and how we do that is love, curiosity, empathy. That's simple. We do know that unconscious bias is a bad habit, and the way you deal with a bad habit is to engage feelings of love, empathy, and curiosity, and we all have that, and it does make sense. When you're dealing with a stranger or somebody else, and you engage those, very, very interesting things start to happen. All good stuff. So curiosity, empathy, and love is what Skin is Skin is all about. Through our messaging, through our everything. We're about those concepts, so we can really get you excited and inspired to really tap into those parts of yourselves. And why a lip balm? A lip balm because, as with any habit that you want to get rid of, it is important for you to have an almost daily, constant reminder to switch your brain on. Because when you don't have your brain switched on, it stays in autopilot. And autopilot is where habits are, right? When you're in your habitual mode, you're on autopilot. You're doing things just because of habit. That's why we call it that way. So this little lip balm here was designed to be like your little cricket in your pocket. Cricket used to be Pinocchio's conscience. And basically, whenever you pull this lip balm out, it is saying to you, hey, Magatte, remember to switch your mind on. And by the way, see, this here is one of my favorite ones, and it's an empathy. See if you can, make sure to engage your sense of empathy there. And then we have mint and curiosity. Engage your sense of curiosity. Or coconut and love. Engage your sense of love. So we really believe that. Be reminded constantly to switch your mind on so you're not on autopilot and you're more conscious of what happens around you. Therefore, you have more control over what happens around you. And you also are becoming a better person. And the way you do that is engage with your sense of love, curiosity, and empathy. Period. So that's on the discrimination side. As for the Africa side, I don't know if you have been reading some of the news lately. These are news that I have grown up with. Stories of thousands of young people on a regular basis trying to get themselves into little fishermen's boats from my country of Senegal, trying to make it to Europe to find a job. Unfortunately, for most of the time, too often, I wouldn't say most of the time, but too often, the boat tips over somewhere on the Mediterranean with leaving hundreds at a time of them dead. So, which means that as of now, we have hundreds of thousands of young Senegalese people from my country laying at the bottom of the ocean serving as fish food. And to me, it is unacceptable. It is beyond outrageous. It is inhumane. It is outrageous. And the reason why they're doing that is because they're trying to go to another country to find a job. And so this is another reason why entrepreneurship is so important to me, because if you're talking about the need for jobs, then you're necessarily talking about the need for companies. And that simple process of building companies and running businesses, that's all what we call entrepreneurship. Some people decide to enterprise, build a business, and then hire people. And those people have, hopefully awesome salaries to be able to take care of their families. So that's how that works. Now, so that's why we decided to move operations to Senegal to make sure that, we can offer as many jobs as possible to as many people as possible, so that that many employees get a chance to stay home, lead healthy, happy, productive lives right there from home, surrounded by their family, their loved ones, their friends, their community, just like most of us get to do from around the world. So that's on the whole purpose thing and mission and passion. That's what drives me. That's why I do what I do. Now, what has COVID and how has COVID changed us? Well, when COVID hit, most of our sales were happening in stores, primarily at Whole Foods Market. So when you go to Whole Foods Market, you can find our products. That's brick and mortar stores. So when COVID hit, all of a sudden, to run my business, we have to have the ability to go to the stores and talk to the people. Let's just take the case of Whole Foods Market here. Our product is sold in the whole body care section. That's our category. That's where we are. So that's where you find out the soaps, the toothpaste, all of that stuff, all the things that are related to body care. And so the way it works, if you want to be successful in a place like Whole Foods or any store, as a matter of fact, it is important for you to go and talk to the sales associates. At Whole Foods Market, we call them team members. So it is important that we get to share with the team members in the whole body section who we are, what we do, what is this brand all about, why is this lip balm so great. Because you want to do that so that whenever they have a customer coming by, you know how oftentimes you go to a store and you ask, I don't know, maybe you want to buy a bike or whatever it is. And, you remember how you usually ask for advice, shoes, sneakers, whatever it is, name it, shampoos, whatever. Oftentimes we find ourselves asking, hey, to the salesperson, what would work for me? What should I do? And so you want to make sure that they know you and they also appreciate you, so that when the customer comes and asks this question, then usually they're going to be like, you know what, this Skinny Skin lip balm is so awesome. It's made with all of these really cool ingredients from Africa, the baobab oil, which is a superfood. You have a hibiscus oil, which is a very precious oil, lip plumper, it makes your lips very plump. That's what hibiscus oil does. Say all of those things and to say, oh, and also, we love them as a company. And I tell you exactly what the Whole Foods people say to their customers, because they tell us that all the time. And the other reason why we love them is not only because it's a great lip balm, but also it's made in Africa. It's made in Senegal, where the founder is from. And they're hiring these women who say that, who obviously without this, it's women who never had a job before, and tell you that they never, ever, ever thought in a million years that they would ever have a job. Not only have a job, when most of them, for them, the future is about waiting for a husband to take care of them. But here they are, they have a job, and they have a job wearing a white blouse, white coat, working in a lab, doing math, doing chemistry, and things that are way more complicated than they ever thought they could do in their lifetime. And the excitement and the pride that you can see in these women, it is unbelievable. I love confidence in people. And when people realize how much we can do, they just become so much more confident. So that, and the fact that, and then they say, oh, and we love also the fact that they have created a Montessori-inspired school for the children of their workers, right? And so all of that makes people just so excited about us. And quite frankly, that's what excites me too. And then they say, oh, and it's not even the whole story. And did you know that they give half of their profits to organizations in the United States working on fighting discrimination in our schools and in our communities? You see, these are all the stories that make people, that's all the reasons why people seem to love so much. And so we have to have an ability to be at the store and kind of share all of this with the sales, who we are and what we do and why us. And so when COVID hit, we no longer could do that. And this is something that we have to do at least once a quarter, because, there's turnover. And, the people you met maybe a quarter ago now maybe have moved onto a different department, or they moved higher up, or they maybe moved away, or maybe they left Whole Foods, who knows? But bottom line is there's a change and you have to keep up with it. All of a sudden, we could not do that anymore. But if we can't do that anymore, what are we? That's not good. And at the same time, foot traffic at Whole Foods goes way down, because you remember all the stay at home. If you don't have to be in the store, don't go to the store, because of COVID. So it meant also less people walking through the aisles and getting a chance to discover us and picking up the product. So we really had to think hard about really how are we going to try and transition a lot of these activities to a digital version. And so that thinking and that requirement made us actually become much more, it accelerated our digital presence. We were definitely going to go more digital, but this definitely, we had nothing more to wait on. This is what we have to do right away. So it's translated into having somebody, hiring somebody in the company who really understands digital marketing and working with this person, shifting ever more our brand to go from, a product that's sold at more like the usual traditional channel, which is you have a product, you put it into the stores, customer comes and gets it that way, to a more direct-to-consumer, model. So where they buy you directly from your online, and then you ship it over to them. So that means that in order to do that, in order to become a more direct-to-consumer business, then it meant that we had to invest in a more robust e-commerce infrastructure. So that's why we transferred from the provider we were using before to Shopify, which offers a much more integrated fulfillment system on the back end and just much more robust for e-commerce all around. So, which our previous providers was not really doing. So as a brand, we had we're basically positioning ourselves more or less to become a type of media company. And what I mean by that is, insofar as we're going to be communicating with people more and more via, digital, then it means that we have to really offer people a really exciting and digital experience and content. So we have to churn out a lot of content, original content. And in our case, everything is coming. I decided that I'm definitely now going to zoom in on content coming straight from my country. Why? Because it is fresh content. It is new. It is stuff that you're not exposed to. It just takes you into the life of other people around the world doing really cool stuff that I know you could relate to. Like the most recent content we're focusing on is around the life of this surfer called Pap. And Pap is he's got a surf shop in Senegal, and we're going to be helping him to basically get ever more equipment because Pap now wants to get into manufacturing surfboards. And we are talking to him. We know exactly now what he needs, and as a brand, we're going to try to get him the material and all the tools that he needs to become a board maker. For now, when you have an old board or a broken board or whatever, you take it to Pap and he kind of brings you back a brand new board with your own colors. I mean, stuff really, really cool. But here he wants to go and now start manufacturing himself. So that has been truly, truly awesome. So you see, it's just, we're just going to take people to a completely new journey where they're having lots of fun. They're discovering a lot. Remember when I told you love, curiosity, and empathy? That's our brand. We're showing empathy by helping Pap become, the board maker he wanted to become. We're showing curiosity. We're going to tap into your curiosity because you're like, oh my God, what is he doing? How's he doing it? How does it work? What's going on? And for you guys to watch these guys back home, surfing in the waves and just super cool. And love, love is going all around when we all do that. So that's, in terms of content, we're basically have geared up to become almost like a media type company who is just bringing you the best and coolest content out of Africa. And then in terms of, and to become a direct-to-consumer brand, we have to also become ever more serious about metrics, right? Using the dashboard the data is to really help us pilot this thing. And then in addition to all of that, we had to come up with new relationships, new partnership, new type of partnerships. And in our case, we're going to try to spend a lot of what we do on building affiliates relationships as well as brand ambassadors relationships. So yes, we spend some dollar ads on Facebook and places like that, but the whole goal for us is going to be to rely on other people to kind of do the advertising part and getting their fans to know about what we're doing. So again, I will say that entrepreneurship is hard. It is definitely not for everybody, but the reward are immense. In my case, I would tell you that I would not have it in any other way, because for me, being an entrepreneur and living the life of an entrepreneur has really, truly, truly been a way for me to practice my freedom as an individual. As an entrepreneur, I feel empowered to not have to wait for anyone or anything. Something doesn't work, I get up and I do something about it. And it gives me a great sense of self-agency and to know that I and my actions do actually matter and we can make a difference. And also, I would say, last but not least, that it really is my way of trying and contributing to the betterment of society. In this case, the social problems that I'm tackling with my business are, on one end, bias and discrimination, and on the other end, bringing jobs to Africans. And as I tackle those two issues, I am hoping that succeeding at it and others coming and doing more about it will get us to a place where the people of Africa, the Black people of Africa, and the Black people around the rest of the world, including Black people in America, will get to start, will get to live better lives, and we will all build toward a society in which Black people become respected members of society as co-creators in innovation in all the ways that matter. So this is why I wake up every day. This is why I do what I do, and I would have it in any other way. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you on the Q&A session. Thank you.
An inspirational presentation. If you need a partner, let me know. I'm ready to start a business with you. That was great. Thank you to all the questions that we're getting from our presentations, all dozens of questions. We're starting to get in them, and we'll answer all of them after our second presentation. With that, two things that I heard you said in this presentation was that entrepreneurship is hard, and that's why you need passion for it. And also, it's very interesting to hear you talk how, because of the crisis, you had to innovate and move from the usual brick and mortar stores into more online and building that infrastructure of e-commerce. And I think that makes justice to the title that we have in terms of how to follow your dreams during a crisis. And this crisis presented unprecedented change for entrepreneurs, and that's what we wanted to hear. And so thank you so much, and we'll follow with those in our Q&A space. For our next speaker, I am very excited to present it to you because it is a very inspirational entrepreneur. It is one of the most inspiring social entrepreneurs that I have the opportunity to know. He is the founder and CEO of Ecofiltro, a company in Guatemala that provides clean water to underprivileged communities. Thank you so much, Philip, to being here.
Thank you, Javier, and great presentation, Magatte. Excellent. I always appreciate talking to students. You know, one of my goals is to talk to 2 groups of students a week, and the reason for that is the things I'm going to talk about today, I wish I knew in high school or college. I learned them much later in life, and I feel like it's a mission now to tell students so that they have a more exciting and fulfilling entrepreneurship career if that's the path they want to take. So I agree with Magatte. Entrepreneurship is really hard. I always say it's an extreme sport, but you know, I started my entrepreneurship career in my 20s, and I've been everything from, you know, I started a battery distribution company in California. I founded a bank in California, Guatemalan, and my wife is Guatemalan. So we moved back to Guatemala. I started a tech company. I'm an organic coffee farmer. In fact, we used to sell our coffee to Whole Foods. And now we sell it directly to Blue Bottle, which actually allows us to go direct to the roaster and be able to pay the folks on the farm better, so we get better pricing. So if anyone's at a Blue Bottle, our coffee is Finca El Pintado, Antigua Guatemalan coffee. But you know, I actually, a funny story, but my wife tells everyone that I'm an entrepreneur because no one would hire me, and I think she's right. I think I'm unemployable. But I started early in life as an entrepreneur, and I want to talk about 3 things. One is trends, what I see as an entrepreneur from the eyes of someone that's been in business for 20 years. And then I'll talk about, you know, the story of Ecofiltro and how I got involved. And then, you know, our response in the pandemic and why it's so important to adapt if you're an entrepreneur. So trends, you know, when I was in school, you know, what I was taught in business school was the capitalism of Milton Friedman. And 50 years ago, he wrote an article saying that the only social responsibility of business is its shareholders and to make money. So whether it's destroying the environment or the products not being good for people, if you're making a good return and growing the company and pleasing the shareholders, well, you're fulfilling your social responsibility. And for the past 50 years, that's been what everyone has thought of what business should be doing. But about 5 years ago, the World Economic Forum, they do a survey to millennials, young folks that are going to be the biggest consumers over the next 20 years. And they started asking them what should be the number one priority of business. And now the number one, what millennials say should be the number one priority of business is improving society. And so young consumers are now expecting a lot from businesses. Of course, they have to make money so that they can grow, but they want them to produce products that benefit the environment, that are healthy. They want them to treat their employees well. And it's really the concept of triple bottom line. And you have a lot of certification organizations like B Corp, which we are now as of February, where we measure our positive impact on the environment, on society, and that we're financially sustainable. So all you future entrepreneurs, if you focus on the triple bottom line, on products that are good for society, treat your people well, your probability of being successful financially is going to increase significantly. And it's a trend. It's really a tsunami that's coming, and I think it's something that's positive for the business community. So how did I become a social entrepreneur? It really came out of a midlife crisis. So I retired at 39, big mistake. It was the most miserable year of my life. I don't recommend it to anyone. I would go on long trips to Europe, to the Caribbean, and really, I woke up one day and I was like a leaf in the wind. No direction at all. And so my sister's a social worker, and as well as my mom, and they have a small foundation. And on my 40th birthday, at my party here, actually in my home, I told my sister I was having trouble getting up in the morning. Could I go work in the foundation? And she said, well, first she was surprised because my only involvement in the foundation is I would give the foundation a check every Christmas. But she was kind of blown away, and she said, okay, Monday, 8 a.m., show up. And I did. And, I started working in the foundation, and the foundation was, I think, very intelligently focused on providing clean water to the rural poor of Guatemala. And my sister had focused it on because the best impact you can do in a rural community is provide them with potable water. So not having access to potable water, kills more people than any form of violence, including war. And in a country like Guatemala, where 95% rivers, streams, wells are contaminated with bacteria of fecal origin, my sister had intelligently focused the foundation on access to clean water. Now, I found that foundations and NGOs tend to measure themselves by their intentions. So we were donating about 2,000 filters a year in a country where there's 1 million families without clean water. So, it was absurd to think that we were going to solve the access to potable water in our lifetime. It was going to take 500 years at that rate. So I asked my sister if I could go into the villages and interview all the families we were trying to help. And she invites me into what's called caseríos, which are small hamlets, where she would donate 30 to 50 filters at a time. And we started out with one small community that had received their filters several months before. And one of the things that shocked me when I went into these, poor huts, very humble homes, was, dirt floors, open pit fires. So there was a lot of smoke. My eyes got really red in the first home I went into, but there was a TV. And there was at least 2 cell phones in each of these small homes. There was lots of soda bottles everywhere. There was even a dish, not for eating, but for watching the World Cup or the Super Bowl or local programming. And so I saw poverty of decision making because the families were sick. They weren't very healthy, but they were spending on things that weren't really improving their lives. And I asked my sister, why was she donating filters to these families, and she would point at the dirt floor and the open pit fire, and I was seeing other items that were purchased by them. So we actually went into about 10 or 12 homes. I saw one filter being used as a garbage can, because often if you give things away for free, you're they're not appreciated. Products that are given away for free don't tend to have a lot of value. So we walked to another village that was free filters the following month. And I asked my sister if I could spend a couple hours. I had a little diary and my pen. If I could sit with each family and just understand the context. And after interviewing all the families, one of the things that I found out was, I asked them, how are you purifying your water right now? And they all said the same thing. They were boiling water. And I asked them, how much was it costing them? And they didn't give me an amount of money. They said, well, we burn about 4 logs in the morning. We fill up a pot with water and we boil it. And that's how we consume, potable water. And I kept hearing that over and over. And, after it was starting to get dark, my sister was a little frustrated because, when you're an entrepreneur, you really have to understand the market and ask a lot of questions. If you don't understand the market, you're not going to develop a product that's going to satisfy those needs, and you're not going to develop a value proposition. So, we on the way back, I asked them actually where they were buying their firewood, and they all told me the same place at a larger village on the way back. And so I asked my sister if we could stop, and I spoke to the guy, and I converted those, the 4 logs that they were boil water each day on a monthly basis. They were spending about $12. And so I thought, okay, if I can go back to these villages and them the filter at a price that's so low that all of them would buy, I think I could not be constrained by raising donations, because you had to raise, donations in order to donate the filters. And because, you can't raise unlimited amounts of money, we could only, raise enough money for 2,000 filters a year. So I go back to, the central office in Guatemala, and I started thinking, and I says, okay, urban families have to drink clean water as well. And I found out that they were spending about $250 a year on bottled water. So my sister had found this incredible filter that was invented in Guatemala called a ceramic pot filter. It looks like a flower pot. And basically it filters water. How nature purifies water in 1,000 feet, this filter purifies water in a couple inches. And so it was a magnificent product. It was the right product. It had great cultural, it makes the water taste fresh and clean and natural. And our family had these, they were called eco-filtros, had these filters in all our homes, and we loved the water. We never got sick. And so I said, and this is the entrepreneur in me, I says, what if I can put filters, flower pots, if I can put them in ceramic receptacles or glass receptacles or clay receptacles, or stainless steel receptacles, and sell them to urban families at a profit, go back to these rural areas, and then be able to price it at a point that they would be able to afford. And the pricing that I wanted to get to in rural areas was a price of $30, so that it would pay for itself in less than 3 months versus firewood to boil water. And so, we started becoming really successful. We went, to the Walmarts and the big retail stores, and the value proposition was very attractive to urban families. And it was really cool, the receptacles that we made for the urban market. And they said, oh, this is something that we think we can sell because all the consumers want to save money. To make a long story really short, over the last 10 years, we've been able to sell over 700,000 filters, of which 60%, over 400,000, have been purchased by rural families. So we, no longer giving them away for free. And really, when you give a product away for free, kill the dignity of the poor family. You're telling them, look, we don't think that you have the ability to solve your own problem. Here's a free filter. But if you conversation with a rural family and you develop a value proposition, which is, hey, I've got this filter that will make having potable water in your home a lot cheaper than boiling water with firewood, you're going to start turning what used to be beneficiaries of a foundation into customers. And when you have customers, it's wonderful because not only are they going to buy the first filter, but they're going to save money in 2 or 3 years. When their filter expires, they can buy the next one. And one of the things I tell entrepreneurs is try to have a very big, hairy, audacious goal. And one of the things that I told myself when I started with the foundation, and I changed the methodology and the mindset of everyone to no longer see the poor as objects of pity, as real customers. I said, you know what, we're going to put a date when we're going to reach a million families in rural Guatemala. And we put that as 2025, in 5 years. And we started developing, instead of kind of that bucket with the filter that kind of looked like what most foundations use to provide free water filters, we made it more aspirational. We gave it color, and we found that increased the demand significantly. So, it was a real success story, and we found that donating filters to public schools was the way to make the filter known and to generate the demand that we needed to get to that million. And so it's really important to, look at, not look as a problem as, access to clean problem that you have to solve, but rather as a market that you have to serve. And it's been a real wonderful success story. It depends on donations. So, if I get hit by a bus, which the way they drive buses here in Guatemala is a high probability, project will continue. The social enterprise is fully sustainable. It works. And I have a lot of really motivated staff because everyone wants to be a part of a just cause. So I have a great team. We have about 120 employees, and they're all really motivated. And the system works. Now, what was our response to this pandemic? I didn't sleep for about a week. Sarge, the president, who's a doctor, was very conservative. He shut down the whole economy. I didn't know for 24 hours whether we would be able to produce filters. So through a friend of a friend, I called the Minister of Economy and I said, hey, we're an important product. We're providing clean water. Can we continue to produce filters? He said yes. But then, the president closed down all stores and all the malls. And so all our urban sales, which were very important for generating lots of revenue so we could do all our donations to schools and keep our price low for rural families, was no longer there. And so in 72 hours, we had to become basically an e-commerce company. And this is, one of the great things of managing a social enterprise is you attract great human talent, because people want to be part of a just cause and they're really excited to, help provide clean water to the rural poor. And we had to figure out, how to, we changed our website to make it very focused on e-commerce. We got about 30 motorcycles and pickup to be delivering filters directly to the consumer in urban areas. But before that, we also had to take care of our employees, because we didn't know how terrible this virus was. And so, we got all the equipment necessary to protect them. We also started a program to get food to the homes of all the families of our, of our teammates, because we didn't want to expose the family members to have to go to the markets for food. And one of the cool things that happened is we asked them, because schools were closed and we have a big donation program to rural schools, all the teammates, how do they think we should help everyone going through this crisis? And they all unanimously said, look, older folks are the ones that need to be protected the most from this virus. Can we start a donation program for the? So we developed a program of we reached over 500 of the elderly in Guatemala City with, donated filters so that they wouldn't have to go out and buy bottled water. And it was nice that it really, it was really great to bring all our company together and say, hey, now that we're protected, how can we help out? And it was beautiful. And Antigua, which is a town that depends on tourism, and a lot of hotels and restaurants went out of business. We also developed, a donation program. We've donated over 6,000 boxes of food. So we've provided about 60,000 meals to families in Antigua. And it's just when you're a social enterprise, you have to, be authentic and really care about people. And I'll close with this. One of the greatest books that's ever been written, and I recommend it to everyone. It's called Humanocracy. If every entrepreneur, future entrepreneur listening to this talk reads it and implements it in their company, they're going to be extremely successful. And it basically talks about how you treat your people. And it's 3 principles. 1, with dignity. 2, with autonomy. So at Ecofiltro, it's about, we have about 20 little companies that operate within Ecofiltro, and they all have the autonomy to implement and prove what they do. So we allow everyone in the company the leeway to really, be really creative and use their minds to improve what they're in charge of. If it's production, or sales, and then 3, profit sharing. So we're very liberal in every efficiency that these teams bring to Ecofiltro. We share it with them. And so, when you're an entrepreneur, try to really be a servant leader and understand that the most important resource are your people. And if you really, treat your people with, great respect and allow them to experiment, they're going to give 150%. And I think made Ecofiltro, extremely successful. This year, we're going to sell, over $5 million. Next year, with our projections, we're going to be at over 10 million. And it's really not me that's, it's the vision, using a company to serve the poor, but also letting all the team members in the company to use their mind and their creativity to improve what they do. And if you do that, I work very little now because, you inspire everyone to be really enthusiastic about going to work every day. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that don't make it to the next level, they don't really understand the importance of working on your business as opposed to in your business. Working on your business is being a great leader where you inspire, where you share your profits, and where you have a just cause, like in the case of Ecofiltro, providing clean water to the poor. And if you do that, if you really start a company with a triple bottom line and you really, have a noble and you inspire and you share your profits with all your teammates, you're going to create a fantastic company, and I think that's what's that's what's exciting about what we do at Ecofiltro, and I hope I hope what I've talked about today inspires other folks to become entrepreneurs. And there's no, it's really hard. It's an extreme sport. You have to be your own boss. But there's nothing more fulfilling than creating something from scratch. And one of the things that I tell my kids, my daughter, my daughter is an entrepreneur now in Paris. She just graduated from college, and she was having trouble finding a job, so she started a company. And one of the she's been using these principles I was just talking about in her company, and she just got Dior as a client, and she's already employing people, and she's going to be very successful. But I want to close with this, And I think this is really important. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't do this, but you really have to take care of yourself if you want to lead people and inspire others. And there's three things that I talk about. I mentor about 8 entrepreneurs right now, and one is physical. Try to do at least 30 minutes of exercise every day. It's really important as an entrepreneur to be fit. And if you're fit and if you do those 30 minutes of exercise, those endorphins are going to make you have a very positive outlook. So try to really have that discipline to do that exercise every day. Now, mind. One of my goals this year was to read 52 books. I'm actually on book 52 this week. Reading a book on Andrew Carnegie. Try to keep your mind sharp, and you don't have to read things about business. In fact, read things, novels, philosophy. Read at least a book a week, or if that's too much, start with a book a month. And that's going to make you a better entrepreneur because it makes you more creative. And the third is, try to, if you're not religious, try to meditate for at least 5 minutes every morning when you get up. Instead of grabbing your, cell phone and checking your feed, try to, start the day with a meditation. What I do is I start with talking about how grateful I am about, with all the things I have, being an entrepreneur, my family, my 2 Great Danes. I always talk about, gratitude is really important. Number 2, contribution. What am I going to do in the next 24 hours to improve someone's day? And it can be in your family, someone, a teammate at work, someone in the community. Try to think of one positive action you can make in those 24 hours. And then, third is positive. Try to always see the positive try to see the positive in everyone that you're going to interact with. And with that, I leave it. And one final thought: my grandfather used to always say, trees don't eat their own fruit. Our nature is to help others. And if you live a life where you're trying to improve the life of others, you're going to live a really happy life and you're never going to have burnout. So thank you very much.
That was an outstanding talk. Thank you so much, Philip. That was you had so many nuggets of high quality information. So thank you. Those were also 3 of the most inspiring and hard things to do. To be grateful, to have those rituals every day, and that's actually the first question. So. The question number 1 that we're gonna have to jump into our panel is, do you have any rituals that help you on a daily basis towards self-improvement? And I'll ask that to Magatte.
Yeah, I think definitely. And Philip touched upon some of them, and one of them, a couple of them, the meditation part. At least about 5 minutes. I try to do 15 minutes, starting and ending, as well as reading. I think is very important. For all the reasons he said that for. But I had found that for me, the reason why I got into meditation is because I tend to really. I used to have really high highs and low lows, meaning when I get good news, I'm almost like jumping up and down and I can't focus on anything else. And the same way, when I get bad news, I am way down and depressed and who knows what else. And so it just was not very good for me for business. Every time something happens, it can suck up 2 or 3 hours of your day easily to recover and go back to an in-between place, right, where you get to do good work. So I had to learn. What I have learned recently is just to have discipline around it. When I had a great news, I'm like, yeah, that was really good and nice. And then what else do I need to do? What else can I focus on? So it's been, I think for me, it has also been about just trying to practice that, come back to a place of, equanimity. That's why I do the how do you call it? The meditation. Yeah, so I have to say, those are the ones I put in. I added to my life recently, and it's been pretty helpful.
Thank you. Yes. Philip, you mentioned that entrepreneurship is extreme sport, and I love that how you describe it. To follow on that term, we have a question that says, "What are some of your greatest mistakes? What have you learned from them, and how do we avoid those same mistakes?"
Oh my gosh. My wife says, I start businesses all the time, and every once in a while, one makes money. So I've started all kinds of, told you about the successful ones. So I would say two mistakes that I've made, like with the ones that didn't go well. I didn't pick the right partners. Really pick partners where you share the same values. And I didn't do that in a couple businesses, and it really prevents you from really running the business in the way that will make it successful. So try to really take time to make sure that your partners have the same values. Another is due diligence. I started this outpatient center in the outskirts of Las Vegas. I think I was 28, 29. I didn't do due diligence. One of the things I realized after we opened it, and we had to hire a doctor and a bunch of administrative people. The main client is the U.S. government. Medicare pays you. And one of the things I didn't realize is it took about 180, 365 days for Medicare to pay you after you service the first patient. And you had to have 4 people doing all this paperwork in order to be able to submit these invoices to the government. And so, we actually ended up closing it down before we got $1 of revenue. We're like, oh my gosh, if the government the rules, we're gonna have to hire more admin people. And we were like, oh gosh. So I didn't do the due diligence, and it's actually a good business if you're an extremely large public company and you can finance it and not have to be paid, in at least 60 or 90 days. It would work. But due diligence, make sure you do due diligence, really understand how the business works, and pick your partners. Make sure they have the same values as you do.
Thank you for keep sending us your questions. We're getting dozens of questions. Make sure that you leave those on our chat. And for our next question, Magatte, they ask, what are some examples of find your why, and how can I find mine?
What are some examples of find your why? I guess in my case, I'm just going to speak on my case. I found my why as I started having all of these news, as I was explaining to you, about the world now hears about these boats that are trying to go to Europe, full of my people, and oftentimes turning upside down on sea. For me, that's my why. That's how I found my why. It was just an acceptable situation, unacceptable. So I embarked on a journey to trying and creating as many jails back home as possible. So I think the way you find your why is to try and be as in tune and conscious as possible and aware. Remember when I talked about switch your brain on so you're not on autopilot and you're just like going through life as not an active like you're not an actor of your life. You have to really try and be present with life. And as you do that, you will surely notice things that don't settle well with you. You will notice things that you think could be and should be done better. And any of those, if it sticks long enough with you to keep you up at night, it's probably a good thing for you to follow up on as your why.
And to follow up on that question, they keep asking the same question, and one of them is: do you have any advice for specific high school students with finding the why so early in their age?
Is it for Philip or for me?
Yeah, you can go. You can follow on that finding the why.
I think we talked about it earlier. One of, we work with a lot of young people. My husband has a chain of, most recently, he founded a chain of high schools in the US. And I also have a school in Senegal now. And one of our goals is to really help students, young people, even younger than high school, try and find their way, like their their why in this world. And the best way we have found to do that is to really try and expose them to as much as possible. You see, the world is a big, wide place, and the more you can discover about it, and the more you will probably stumble upon what is it that you seem to care about. So I would definitely go back to this concept of not only reading, but really trying to immerse, trying to expose yourself to as much as possible. This, again, another word, curiosity. Just be as wildly curious as you can be, and the answer will hopefully it will come from being very curious about the world. So expose yourself to as much as you can, and also don't stress. Some of us find our calling at age. Actually, they say it's around 50. I think it's 50 years old. Yes, that it's around that age group that we find the most successful entrepreneurs. So you see, we're completely jaded by the news, always showing us Mark Zuckerberg, being successful in his 20s. That's what there's this fetishism, I would say, with youth, and just like, oh, look at this guy with this woman, or what they did, or whatever. And that's all great and nice, but the reality is, it doesn't work like that in real life. So stop the pressure and stop the stress. In the end, experience comes with time as well, and the more you're out there and looking at things, and the more just you're going to start to connect the dots. So relax, yet stay aware, and just have fun with the journey of discovering and discoveries, and something will start to pop in your mind.
Also, a great book I recently read, Start With Why from Simon Sinek. It's one of the very inspirational and one of the must-reads books for entrepreneurs. So I highly recommend that. And to follow up on the question of books, someone's asking if you could please repeat, Philip, the book that you say it's a must-read for all entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so Humanocracy. It's Gary Hamel. It's really explains the best way to manage the teammates that you're going to bring into your company, and to make sure that you never have bureaucracy, that you really give liberty to your teammates to experiment, and that you share in all the benefits that they bring to the organization. And I really think it's one of the most important books regarding business of the decade. And I, have been implementing it, and it works. And it makes your life, if you're the entrepreneur, really easy, because you have highly motivated teammates, and they make good money, and they feel really good about going to work every morning because they know that they're going to be able to experiment and use their creativity to improve what role that they're have in the company.
Philip, you mentioned that one of the first things that you do early in the morning is that you take 5 minutes to be thankful for something. And we actually received a question that says, what if you do not have those attributes like being grateful and positive and those things, those kind of things? What should you do then?
Well, you're probably getting up and looking at your phone first thing. So you have to break that habit and I used to do it. And I'm telling, I'm talking about this from experience, because I used to not do this. I used to get up and start the day looking at my computer at the news, which many times news, especially now, is not very positive. And so, what you do when you open your eyes, that's going to set the tone for the day. So when I started it, and it's really hard, because it's really hard until it becomes a habit. Now it's a habit and I don't even think about it. But if you really break that habit and you open your eyes and say, boy, and there's always something, that you're grateful for, your life, you got up, start with the most basic things, and just try it tomorrow, try it for 1 week, and you'll see how your life changes. Just say, hey, I'm really happy, for my friends, or for, having a meal, having food on the table yesterday. I'm really, really happy about that. I'm very grateful. And then, talk about doing one gesture, and it doesn't have to be giving food to the homeless, just saying a kind word to a teammate or someone, and to see the positive in the people that you work with or your family. Once that becomes a habit, you you become a really youthful person with a lot of energy, and but it takes a while at the beginning. So don't try to avoid the phone and look at the news or look at your WhatsApp or your feed, your Twitter feed or whatever first thing in the morning, because usually it's negative stuff and that just sets the tone for the day.
That's right. I must say it's something very hard to do. It's so easy to um, go to sleep with your phone next to you, and the first thing that rings in the morning is your alarm, and you get right into it with checking emails and doing all of that. So completely agree with all of those positive and healthy habits of
Yeah.
meditating, having some time off, and just really starting the day with your right foot. Um, Going back to the title of our session today, launch an impactful career in a post-COVID world. One of the questions here that they're asking, Magatte, um, if you were an inspiring entrepreneur in your 20s right now with limited resources, what kinds of business will you launch? What is my first step?
I I don't know. I don't know. I can just tell you that for me, when I found for my first company when I built it, it was going to be a beverage company because of I discovered that the juice I grew up with as a child in Africa, in Senegal, was no longer it juice because Coke and Pepsi and all that tried to replace it. So I decided I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to create a consumer good, like bottled beverage, bringing back the recipe. And when I decided to do that, I started with, first of all, I have to get the recipe right. So I started calling different people in the family, my aunts especially have to get involved. And so eventually we got the recipe right. And when I say the recipe, it's really that, the recipe. So I had to do it in my kitchen, kind of prepare things. And so I won't repeat the whole thing in case people on this were here on day one. But you heard the story. I had to figure the recipe. Then I had to figure out, get some samples from different, companies. Like we're talking about mango juice, we're talking apple, pineapple juice, all of that stuff, and then figure out how do I pasteurize these juices? Because I went to the store where I would sell these products, and I asked them, how could I do to what would need to happen for me to have my juices on your shelves? And then they say they have to be pasteurized. What is that? And how do I do it? So I went back and I Googled stuff. So my point is, I wouldn't sit here and tell you exactly what to do because that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. If we all knew what to do, probably 20 more people would have done it by now. So but I would say that once you know what you want to try to do, then you just have to get started with it. And most importantly, start asking questions. I think for all my businesses, what really has helped me is to not shy away from asking questions and asking what I don't know. Do a lot of Google research. Once you find out terms of some kind and you're still kind of stuck, try to find out, like who is kind of knowledgeable about any of this. Just talk to people and go step by step. And that's really more what I can advise rather than, oh, if I was 20 today, this is a business I would do. Because I don't.
Something that you previously mentioned during your presentation was that transition from the brick and mortar stores to e-commerce. I know that nowadays the e-commerce industry and many young entrepreneurs are trying to sell products on online and building websites in Shopify and putting their products out. What will be some of the best practices or best advices that you will give to some of the young students that are watching us tonight?
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that I like I said, I'm becoming ever more convinced of. Yes, the data that you're getting behind the scene. I mean, Amazon is very famous about data and relying on data to know what to do next. To me, I agree with that, but to a certain point. I'm very, I think major industries are going to be really seeing lots of changes going forward. And I'm looking at the media, I'm looking at where all of us used to get our information from. I do think that the mainstream media as we know it is pretty much in its on its last turn as of now. And I do think people now are looking other places for their information. And this is where call me crazy, but I really do think that brands are gonna the let me say it this way. I think that the opportunity for many brands, at least if you're going for a brand, if you're going to do something else, I can't speak to that. I speak to brands because brands is what I do. I develop brands. So brands are going to have to become almost like media companies. We're going to have to churn out ever so more content, original content, interesting content for people to just, because that's the level at which they're going to interact with you. It cannot, it can, it's no, it's not going to be about, yeah. So the advice is, if you're going to be building a brand, which is what I can speak to, remember and think about becoming a really great content creator and having tons of content that's surrounded about your brand, around your brand, and also explaining, like that type. I think brands like, which one is this brand? It's it's escaping me now, but it might come back. It is this energy company. I think they started out doing it. They were the early precursors of this. But again, it's going to be a brand. Think about beyond the brand, become a media type company. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going for. We're focusing tons on content creation.
Yes, and it's no surprise that nowadays the market is evolving at a rapid rate with COVID, with the pandemic, and many businesses, if they want to stay afloat, they want to stay alive, they need to transition to that platform to build that infrastructure. Also, Philip, you touched on when building a brand, now the market requires you to be more conscious about your environment, about building a sustainable brand. And some of the questions that we're getting here is about how can you do that? How can you achieve to build a sustainable brand that will attract customers that have a higher stake for your business?
Yeah. Well, first, the reality is that's what customers are expecting, and authentic. You can't just do it because that's the trend. So one of the, it creates a lot of stickiness. If you're, we do a lot of things with our, we have about 700,000 customers, of which about 350,000 are urban families. And so we do these, how to do a small herb garden in your home, because the filters can be used as flower pots after they're used. And so we really try to create a community. You can paint your flower pot, and we have these, people bring in their old filters and they paint them. Creating a community is really important, and it's really important to be authentic. And we're an open factory, so anyone can come visit it. And we have an organic garden, a soccer field, fruit trees everywhere. We run the factory pretty much with the wind and solar energy. And so you really have to be authentic, because if you're just doing these things because you're going to sell more, because that's the trend, you're probably not going to attract a lot of great employees. And sooner or later, the customers are going to find out that you're really not authentic. So it really starts with the leader really trying to improve the world through their company, and that shows on the product. Even like the plastic bags that the filters come in are compostable plastic bags. And so everything you do has to be aligned principles. And if you're authentic, then you create customers for a lifetime. And that's the trend. That's the trend, which is the beauty. If you really have those values, the market is really rewarding those companies and paying a premium for those products.
And to maybe add just a little bit on that, and some extra resources for folks around the room right now. So basically, all of this, we have come to what Philip has been talking about in the industry. We have come to put it under the umbrella of conscious capitalism, right? So conscious capitalism is this concept in which we don't believe that the shareholders alone are the only people that the business should be responding to. Just like Philip said earlier, conscious capitalists are not about profit maximization, but they are for purpose maximization. And the best way for you to ensure that you're being a conscious capitalist, that you're doing all the things that Philip talks about, which we are as well. I'm on the board of conscious capitalism. So what the best way for you to ensure you're being a conscious capitalist is you have to truly remember your stakeholders. Remember, we said we're not responding to shareholders only. We're responding to stakeholders. Stakeholders are your employees. They are your customers. They are your suppliers. The environment, the community in which your business is evolving. The environment is one of the stakeholders, as well as our shareholders. And whenever you're trying to make a decision, it is very important that you try to consider, is this decision going to be a win between all of the stakeholders? If it is not, chances are you need to think again. And so that's what the conscious capitalists are. And there are two books that I would ask you to read on this. One of them is called Be the Solution, How Entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs can solve all the world problems. And another one is the book Conscious Capitalism itself. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Magatte. It's truly something that authenticity, that's what people see. That's what inspires trust to buyers when they're choosing between competition, when they're choosing between so many businesses that are competing for your dollar. And with that, we mentioned before that you need to start with why. You need to get inspired, then you need to seek a purpose that you're going after for your businesses. To close our session today and to give a practical advice to our students, what are some of the best advices when putting a business plan? What's some of the best nuggets of information that you can share with our students?
I'll make sure you're serving a market need, and make sure that you can deliver that need at a price greater than the cost of producing it. And there's a lot of good eyes out there that aren't necessarily good businesses. And make sure you're trying to improve society along the way.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your time. It was truly an honor to have you both. It was a treat to learn from you, from your business experience, and from all your knowledge. So thank you so much. Thank you, Magatte. Thank you, Philip, for joining us today. And thank you to all who have been joining us for the Entrepreneur Week, our first edition of our Entrepreneur Week. So we're looking forward to creating more events like this and looking forward to our next edition of Entrepreneur Week next year. Please make sure that you fill our feedback form. We will really appreciate it, and make sure that you follow us on our social media, on Fee Online, on Instagram, on our YouTube channel, or on our Facebook profile. So thank you so much again, and see you next time.